Today, communication is key within an organization. Whether you have to communicate internally or with your customer or partners, it's really important to have an efficient configuration. Hello, my name is Quentin. I'm part of the business analyst team in Odoo, and today I'm with my colleague Baptiste, who is part of
Hello.
the technical support. So today we want to show you what Odoo can offer you when it comes to email communication. So maybe you already had the chance to follow the talk of our colleague Emma yesterday, which was about email deliverability and outgoing emails. So this is, let's say, the next episode. We'll talk about incoming emails, then we will have a look at the notification system. Right after that, we'll have a Q&A session. By the way, you can just scan the QR code here if you didn't have time to do it. Then we have a short break, and right after that, we'll have a second talk where we'll do a practical use case applying everything that we learned here together. So to start with incoming emails, the first question is how they come in. As you might know, if you are in a fully standard configuration, you actually don't have anything to do. They will come in directly in a database. So in our use case, we will take the case where we have a custom domain name. So if you have a custom domain name and your customer sends an email, basically you have two options. Either they will send an email to an alias that will create a record in your database, or they will just reply to an email that you send from your database. So the question is, when he sends this email, how can you receive this email directly in the database? We have three methods to do that. The first one would be the pull method. So on the left, you have the recipient's mail server, and on the right, the Odoo database. With the pull method, your customer will send the email in the mail server, and then from your database, we will pull all this email from the mail server. The second method is just the push method, so it's just the other way around. Again, the mails arrive in your recipient mail server, and then from this mail server, we will push directly all this email in the Odoo database. And the third one is a direct delivery by DNS. In this case, we won't even go through the recipient mail server. It's just thanks to a configuration in your DNS zone that we will show you just after, the email will be directly sent to the Odoo database. So let's check more in details these three methods. So for the pull method, as you can see on the screen, on the left you have your mailbox, and on the right again the Odoo database. So let's take an example where your customer will send an email to help@mydomain.com. This email will arrive in your mailbox, and on our side in Odoo, you will have to configure an incoming mail server. Thanks to this configuration and thanks to a cron, we will be able to fetch all this email from the mailbox to the Odoo database. So as I was saying, this depends on the cron. So it means that you won't receive directly the emails from the database. You will have to wait a new occurrence of this cron. So this is mainly for SAS and SH database. Note that you will have to wait at least 5 minutes. Don't try to put 1 minute in there. It won't work. With this method, you can, of course, use the two protocols, either POP3 or IPMAP4. And also note that you have to use a mailbox dedicated for this usage. So don't use your personal mailbox to do this configuration. You will have to create one mailbox for each aliases. So here we have the example for help. So I should create a mailbox for help and configure the incoming mail server. If I have other aliases, for example, sales team, you will have to do exactly the same. The second method. So this one is the push method. So here again, we'll take the same example. Your customer is sending an email to help@mydomain.com, and this time we won't pull the email from the mailbox, but we will do a configuration directly in your mailbox, which will push everything to your database. So here it will be a redirection. So meaning that when you receive the mail in your mailbox, it's directly redirected to your Odoo database. Again, is the same note as for the pull method. You will have to implement this for every aliases, so one mailbox per aliases. If you don't have a custom domain, you could also use a forwarding instead of the redirection. The main difference between these two is that with the forwarding, the from will be the forwarding address, while with the redirection, the from will be the original sender. Yeah, in important note, if you are on premise, you will have to add this script, which is called the email gateway. You can scan the QR code that is on the screen. You will be able to access our documentation. I won't go into detail on that. If you want, you can come and ask questions to us after. But basically, this script, you will need to inject the script, and it will define what we should do with the email we received, to which database we should send it, etc. So the third and last method is direct delivery. So here, if we have a look, at the screen, you can see that again we have our customer sending an email to our helpdesk team. You can already note a first difference in the mail is sent to help@mail.mydomain.com. So here we are not using our regular domain, we are using a subdomain. So keep that in mind for later. So my customer John is sending this email. His SMTP server will check our DNS to know where it should reach us. And that's here in our DNS that we will do a configuration on the MX record. Basically, what will happen is that we will say that, okay, you are trying to reach out to mail.mydomain.com, but you can find him at subdomain.odoo.com, which here is our Odoo database. So by doing that, the email will be sent directly to your Odoo database. As I was saying, you need to use a subdomain. So here in our example is mail.mydomain.com. The reason of that is that we have to do a configuration on the Odoo portal, and on the Odoo portal you are not able to configure a naked domain, so that's why you are using a subdomain here. In this example, you can see that it's a MX record that we are using, but it could also work with a CNAME, but we will explain that in the second talk. I know it was a lot of information, so here is quick overview of the methods that we saw. So on the left, the direct delivery, on the right, the pull and push method. And here we can see that the main difference between those two is that with the pull and push method, when we will do the query to the DNS on the MX record, the answer will be our mail server, meaning that the email arrives in the mail server, and then we still have to either pull or push the email to our database. In the other configuration, the direct delivery, here the answer of the MX will be our Odoo database directly. So basically, we can skip one step in the process. So that's why, in our opinion, this is the best solution to use. So now I let Baptiste explain you some more parameters about incoming emails.
Okay, so right now we configured all the way the email comings. So we have three types of email. We have the alias, the catch-all, and the bounce. So the first, I will explain the three differences between them. Then I will explain you how it was before Odoo 17. And in last, I will talk about the new features, the multi-domain. Multi-domain, multi-company, sorry. So about the aliases. The aliases, you can just simply create an alias, and it will just create a record inside your database. The other way is when you send an email from Odoo, your customer will receive it, and if the reply is having a model, if the reply on the model having an existing alias, it will come back to Odoo with the reply to address. Same idea with the catch-all. So if I send an email from a record, like a contact, that doesn't have a reply to address and an existing alias, the reply to will come back to the catch-all. And the last one is the bounce. If you send an email through using your mail server, and it's not delivered to the final recipient, it will come back to Odoo and display a red envelope. I will come back to this one. So about this red envelope, you probably already have seen it before. If you go on the chatter, you will see this red envelope. If you click on it, you will see this message saying that it bounced. So it means that the final message was not sent to the final recipient. If you click on see error details, you will have more information. We added this in 16.2, and if you want, you can have a look at the pull request just by scanning the QR code. So just what we saw, we have the three different type of incoming mail. So we have the aliases, which is just there for the creation of record, but also reply on model having an existing alias. The catch-all is only there for the reply. If you send directly an email to the catch-all, it will bounce saying that you cannot contact this database using this email address. It will not create a record. This has only the only purpose of this one is to populate the chatters of your models and records. And the bounces are the red envelope, are the non-delivery reports, like the out of office, the mailbox unavailable or full, and it will be displayed as a red envelope. So before Odoo 17, you could simply add your domain, and this domain on the general setting will be set for all your database. If you go into your system parameter under technical, so you need to be in debug mode, you could see that the mail catch domain was created with the domain you put on the general settings. For the notification system, we added the mail default from filter. I will explain it after. But if you change your mail domain, you need to have this from filter matching the mail catch domain. So you will need to go to the system parameters. If you want to create an alias, the easiest way is simply to go to the corresponding view and create the alias there. Why? Because there is default value that needs to be set, and Odoo knows them, but you don't. And if you want to have a look at all the aliases, you can simply go into the technical aliases, and you will see all your aliases and the default value and the configuration they have. What's new in Odoo 17? We have the new multi-domain management. You can scan the QR code if you want. That's the pull request that was done by the R&D to introduce this feature. So before we had, on the previous Odoo version, we had just one common domain and one domain for all the database, and we had our company that were not linked to it. And in V17, we put all of them together. We had the company A, which has its own catch-all domain and its own aliases that you can create it. And the same with the company and any other company that you have in your database. So how to create this? You simply go into the general settings, and if you are in a multi-company environment, you will see this small icon saying that it's no company specific. If I change my company, I will see that I can add another one, another domain. If I'm going into the technical settings, I can also see this new menu called alias domain. And on this, I will have all the domain that I have with the corresponding bounds, catch-all, and the notification, which is the default from alias. If you go into your aliases, you could see that there is a new column called alias domain, saying that this local part is linked to this domain. So I could now have a new two aliases, info, but for a different domain. The notification system. So this system is a bit old, is from V15, but I think it's important to really understand it because a lot of customers doesn't, and it's sometimes really hard to understand. So how does it work? I have my Odoo database in Odoo 17 with its own domain called example.com for now, and I will have my default from address, which is notification. This is on the menu as I showed previously, which is this one, okay? I will have a default outgoing mail server, which is the Odoo's ones by default, with the command line interface, as Emma has explained on her talk, with a from filtering example.com. If I send a quotation to a customer, like for example test at test.com, with the ID, the sale order ID 17, if this customer received it and replied to it, the reply will come back to the linked alias in Odoo. So sales are at example.com. What Odoo will do is that when we receive this email, we will forward the reply to the followers of the record. And in order to avoid using this email address that doesn't belong to our domain, we will overwrite it with the configuration we have in our database, which is for now notification at example.com. The example.com in here, I'm assuming that is correctly configured SPF and DKIM. As if you want more information about this, I will invite you to either watch our next talk or come back to the Emma's talk if you are not technical enough yet. So thank you. If you have any question, we remain available in the right now. Yeah. And stay tuned. We have a next talk about practical use case. Yep. So for the first question, is there a documentation for setting up Microsoft Exchange Server with Odoo on-premise? No. We have our documentation. I can show you quickly. In the OAuth explaining with the OAuth, because that's a limitation on the Outlook side, where you can configure all the authentication to communicate between your database and the Microsoft Outlook connector. You need to create the credential, everything. I will let you go into this, this page if you want more information. And at the bottom of it, I modified a little bit the documentation. We modified a little bit the documentation, explaining what you need to do in Odoo in order to have it working. So we have header, which I would highly recommend, the configuration with one single outgoing mail server. So you could have one Outlook outgoing mail server with some specific parameter, like you need to have a full address in the mail default from, or notification and the mail control match your domain. Or you can have a user-specific configuration, which means that for every user you have in your database, you could simply create one outgoing mail server and configure it for it. But I will not recommend this one, because there is some limitation in Outlook, and you will need every 6 months to recreate the outgoing mail server in your database, which means that every user you have will need to have access to the technical menu and the outgoing to create his own outgoing mail server. And there is a token, I don't know which one exactly, on the Outlook side that needs to be refreshed every 6 months. If you have more questions about this, we can discuss about this later, because this is a really huge topic. We plan on improving the documentation, but it takes a little bit of time. How to forward an email from my Outlook inbox to a specific Odoo object. If I understand correctly the question, well, you can probably configure the aliases in your database in order to make it match this specific object. Sorry, I need to see a practical use case, and I can probably answer you better for this one.
Yeah. So next one, what is the best method to forward attachments to a specific Odoo object? I guess if you want to forward attachments, you can basically just configure aliases, and if you send an attachment in this email, this will either create a record in the Odoo object, or if the Odoo object is already existing, the attachment will be added in the chatter.
I will also advise you probably to use more the API that you have, the XML-RPC one, in order to create a record directly, or to forward them to a specific attachment. Again, I think having a practical use case would be helpful to answer the question.
So here are a question about multi-domain. How configure multi-domain per website if you have any websites for one company and a domain per website?
I don't really think it's linked to the mailing system, but
no,
maybe
I
I'm
don't think
wrong.
so, because on your website you can define a company directly on the website, but indeed it's not directly related to the mailing system. When will an email be sent with via tag as my customer reports that they received mail containing a mail via order, for example, hello@mail.info via hi@info.com?
I'm not having everything, but this is the notification system. And will an email be sent with via tag on my customer report? Okay, so for this, it will depend, if I understand correctly the question, it will depend on your configuration in your database. So in the previous version of Odoo, so before 17, if an incoming email has a domain that didn't match the system parameter mail default from filter, we will overwrite it with the notification at mail catch-all domain, which is another system parameter. I will invite you to test it in V17, but I haven't yet, so I cannot really answer you for the V17. Does the catch-all settings means no more mail will be lost in Odoo? We haven't changed anything about this one. It's still always the same. It doesn't change. It's only there to get the reply. It doesn't have the purpose of creating a record inside of Odoo.
Do you still limit outgoing emails to 400 per day? How do you recommend configuring Odoo to send 9,000 newsletters at once? The limits of email that you have per day, it depends on your database. If you need to increase it, you can always contact the support, create a ticket to make a request to increase it. It will depend on your email usage. They will do an analysis. If you want to release a newsletter, then we would advise not to use the default Odoo mail server.
Well,
You
don't, you
should,
will be blocked anyway.
yeah. So you should create your own outgoing mail server. But in the next talk, we will show you a configuration where you can use this another mail server for the mass mailing and still keep the Odoo default one for your transactional email.
Our mail still sent as Odoo to customer? No, we have fixed it like I think 1 or 2 versions ago, so we should not see this anymore. I know that it was a time where we had like small joke that were sent in the chatter by the Odoo bot, but we revamped this feature, which was a weird feature in my opinion.
Why sometimes in Odoo mail gets sent even if outgoing mail server is archived?
Well, this was a bug, but also a feature in Odoo. It's a little bit hard to say, but well, it was a small bug. We use it from time to time to be able to do a specific configuration in customer database, but it has been completely impossible to have this in V16. It's completely fixed. That's what I meant. Okay, we still have three minutes.
So how to prevent accidental emails to customer followers even though not intended? Happen even to Odoo employees.
I will say watch your
question.
employee. I don't know. Yeah, I mean that's human mistake. I will say, but I don't really know if the mistake is the human.
Maybe
what
it's
can
the
you do?
mistake between the send message and the log note, but
Yeah,
yeah,
this is human mistake.
it happens. But once you did it, it doesn't happen twice.
How can you solve problem with sending failure sending? So the bounce, I guess, the red envelope. So I will tell you if you have this issue a lot, come to the support, create a ticket, and we can dig into the logs, check the SMTP logs too, to see if there is one specific reason. But I will always recommend check the SPF DKIM and SPF and DKIM at least of your domain in order to ensure that you can use the mail server of Odoo and the database of Odoo to send email. It will be... Okay, we can answer it after. If you want one last question.
Is it possible that an email is seen as sent in Odoo, white letter, but you can find it in the catch-all, although you know the customer received the email?
Sorry, I'm rereading it. Is it
Yeah.
possible for an email is seen as seen in Odoo with letter, but you can find it in the catch-all?
I don't really get what you mean, but
no.
you can find it in the catch-all, but again, maybe if you want to come and discuss with us right after, we can.
If I understand the question, but I don't see about the Gmail thing, so probably you have an outgoing mail server Gmail. But you have to understand that there is, every time you send an email from your Odoo database, you always have two technical models, which is the mail, which is the real mail that is sent to the customer, and you will have the mail message will be there to populate the chatter. So when an email is sent, as we already have the information in the mail message, it's not relevant to keep it, so we delete them most of the time. That's why if you go, for example, in a mass mailing campaign or something, you can see in the settings that you can keep archived. So it means that when the email is sent, and for example, your mass mailing campaign is targeting CRM lead, if you tick this box, it will keep the mail that you send into every lead. One last?
Yeah.
Quick last?
Yeah, we have time, I think. In V17, if I have several domains from a single company, can each domain name be sent as sender and use different email templates? If I'm not mistaken, for now at least, we can only have one domain per company.
No, you can have multiple one. Just need to be sure, but I'm pretty sure it was the case. You can just have one. No, sorry. Several domain for a single company. No, not on this one. Not on this side. You can have multiple company with one domain, but not the way around. So no.
Yeah, we can show you after, but the field in the general settings when you set up the domain of your company, it's basically a many-to-one field, so you can only select one company, one domain. Sorry, in there.
Just last question, how to configure SPF for mail deliverables. Come to the next talk. I will show you all the configuration in OVH, which is the practical use case of the talk of Emma of yesterday. Yeah, so I'm hearing is
think
the
that's
time.
it.
So we'll stop from now. If you have any question, well, we'll do a new next talk about like practical use case, and then you can meet us at the booth this afternoon from 1 to 3 something.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
Okay.
This afternoon.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you for your attention.